This coin almost ended up being spent at a gas station for a pack of gum, but instead, it shocked the coin world when it sold for millions. And here's the chilling truth: you could have one of these pennies sitting unnoticed in your own home. The year was 2011. Denver's mint was running at full speed, striking billions of pennies that seemed ordinary, unremarkable, destined for vending machines and coffee jars. But somewhere in the middle of that thunderous production line, something went terribly wrong. A mistake so rare, so bizarre, that it transformed a single copper-plated zinc penny into a treasure worth up to $2.3 million. At first glance, it looks like any other Lincoln penny. Same brownish-red tone. Same familiar memorial design that we've all seen countless times. But hidden in the shadows of those tiny details is a difference so subtle that most people would toss it aside without ever noticing. Collectors were shocked when the first one surfaced. A man in Colorado casually checked his pocket change, not expecting much. But when he held that penny up to the light, something about it looked off. The strike was unusual, the details sharper, the mint mark positioned ever so slightly differently. He didn't realize it at first, but what he was holding was not just a penny, it was history, and when he brought it to a dealer, jaws dropped. Experts confirmed what few could believe: this was a Denver-minted 2011 Lincoln penny with a minting error so scarce it had almost vanished into myth. Soon after, the coin was auctioned. Bidders battled fiercely. And when the final gavel fell, that 1-cent coin had transformed into a fortune. A staggering $2.3 million. The answer lies in the secret world of minting mistakes. You see, the Denver Mint, one of the busiest facilities in the United States, strikes billions of coins each year. Machines move at blinding speed. And in that chaos, sometimes dies clash, sometimes double dies slip through, sometimes misstruck planchets sneak into circulation. Most are caught. But every once in a while, one escapes. And when it does, it becomes a legend. This 2011 D penny was struck with a unique combination of anomalies. Collectors whisper about double die errors on the date, the misaligned mint mark, and even an off-center strike so tiny, so nearly invisible, that only trained eyes catch it. But that microscopic difference is exactly why it's worth millions, and why most people miss it completely. But here's where it gets even more dramatic. Had the mint accidentally released a handful of these million-dollar pennies into circulation? Dealers rushed to examine rolls of 2011 D pennies, searching tirelessly. Entire boxes were opened, magnifying glasses pulled out, collectors hunched over tables for hours. And yet, so few surfaced that it seemed almost impossible. But then, another appeared. This time at an estate sale. A man buying a jar of coins for just a few dollars nearly fainted when he realized what he had picked up. The bidding war that followed was so fierce, collectors said it felt like watching history being rewritten, and that's the moment when the coin world realized, this wasn't just luck. These coins were out there. Silent. Waiting. Blending in with billions of ordinary pennies. Think about that. You could be holding one right now, without even knowing it. The story doesn't end there. In 2017, another specimen was uncovered. This one was in near-perfect uncirculated condition, its details razor-sharp, its luster still blazing as if it had just left the mint. Experts said it was one of the finest examples they had ever seen. When it went to auction, collectors held their breath. And the final price? Again, well into the millions, but what makes this so important isn't just the price tag. It's the dream. One man's pocket change became a miracle worth more than $2 million. Another collector's curiosity at an estate sale led to financial freedom. These aren't fairy tales. These are real people, ordinary Americans, stumbling across life-changing treasures hidden in plain sight. 2011 with a clear D mint mark under the year. That's Denver. Next, take a magnifying glass and examine the details carefully. Look for doubling in the numbers, especially the 2011. Check the mint mark closely. Some are misaligned, slightly higher or lower than usual. Pay attention to the strike itself. Many of these rare coins have an unusually sharp or off-center appearance that sets them apart from ordinary circulation pennies. Most people overlook them because they appear so ordinary. That's why millions of these errors vanish unnoticed into jars, drawers, and cash registers, but for the ones who know what to look for, the reward is unimaginable. Think about it. A single cent, something most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the street. And yet, in the right form, it can be worth $2.3 million. That's the magic of coin collecting. That's the thrill that keeps collectors awake at night, searching, hoping, believing, and maybe, just maybe, the next miracle penny is already in your possession. Check your jars. Check your wallets. Look again at those old rolls tucked away in a desk drawer. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your house right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost slipped through the cracks of history, almost spent at a gas station, almost lost in the shuffle of everyday change. But instead, it shocked the coin world by being valued at up to $2.4 million. Imagine holding a coin so common, so ordinary, that millions of people spend it every day, and yet, yours could be the one that changes your life forever. The 1988 no-mint Mark Lincoln Memorial Penny is one of those coins, a quiet legend, a secret hiding in plain sight. Collectors whisper about it, dealers chase after it, and lucky finders are left speechless. But why? What makes this single penny worth more than mansions, luxury cars, or even an entire retirement fund? The truth lies in a detail so small, so subtle, that most people miss it entirely. Back in 1988, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents. The memorial design had been running for decades, and to most Americans, pennies were just pennies. Tossed in jars, shoved in pockets, left in the cracks of couches. Nobody suspected that a tiny error, a faint change in design, would create $1 million miracle. But then, something happened that an observant collector spotted a coin that didn't look quite right. The date was 1988, but the design on the back wasn't from 1988 at all. It was a mule, a rare mistake where two mismatched designs collided. The reverse bore the Lincoln Memorial, but the obverse carried a subtle clue, a portrait hub that didn't belong. This wasn't just a penny. It was a fluke of history. And the world of coin collecting would never see it the same again. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread fast. Auction houses buzzed with anticipation. Could this little coin, plucked from pocket change, truly be worth millions? One by one, collectors lined up to verify the truth. Magnifying glasses came out, experts debated, and every tiny line of the coin was inspected under light, and then came the verdict: yes. It was genuine. The coin crossed the auction block and sent shockwaves everywhere. The final price? Staggering. A humble Lincoln Memorial penny had climbed into the realm of the $1 million, and beyond. One man's casual change turned into a life-changing treasure. And collectors everywhere began scouring their drawers, wallets, and piggy banks, hoping lightning would strike twice. But here's where it gets even more chilling. The 1988 no-mint Mark penny isn't just valuable because it's old, it's valuable because of the rare variety it represents. There are coins with the wrong design hub, coins struck with tiny errors in lettering, and coins where the smallest details, a faint doubling, a misplaced element, transformed them from pocket change into generational wealth. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. On the obverse, look closely at the year. The style of Lincoln's bust is slightly different from other 1988 pennies. It's not obvious at first glance. But under magnification, you'll see traits borrowed from the following year's design. It's a mule transition coin, a glimpse into the mint's changing process, struck by accident, and released into circulation. Imagine the chaos in the mint when those dies slipped through. Imagine the unsuspecting worker bagging up those pennies, never realizing he was sending away a fortune in copper-plated zinc. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled. Newspapers reported it like a modern gold rush. And suddenly, the idea that a simple 1988 penny could be worth over $2 million wasn't fantasy, it was fact. But here's the twist: not every 1988 penny is valuable. Millions are ordinary. The key is spotting the right markers. And that's where many people make a heartbreaking mistake. They see the date, they see no mint mark, and they think they've struck gold. But without the mule design variety, the coin is worth only a cent. First, examine Lincoln's portrait. The 1988 reverse of 1989 penny has sharper details on the bust and a different style of lettering on the obverse. Under magnification, the designer's initials show subtle differences. These tiny clues separate the $1,000,000 coins from the worthless ones. Second, check the reverse. The Lincoln Memorial should carry the design intended for 1988. But when paired with the obverse hub of 1989, it becomes the error that makes this coin legendary. And third, don't rely on the naked eye alone. The most valuable 1988 pennies have been authenticated and graded by trusted services like PCGS and NGC. Their seal of approval transforms a suspicious penny into a confirmed $1,000,000 miracle. Think about it. That jar of pennies you've been ignoring. That change you got from a grocery store. That old coffee can in the garage. Any of them could hold a coin worth $2.4 million, a coin so rare, so powerful, it could rewrite your future. Collectors dream of this. Dealers fantasize about it. And ordinary people, like you, sometimes stumble into history without even realizing it. This is more than a penny. It's a chance. A symbol. A reminder that miracles can hide in plain sight. So the next time you see a 1988 penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it. Look closer. Get it checked. Because while most are worth 1 cent, the right one could buy you freedom, security, and a story that will echo for generations. This penny almost slipped through history unnoticed. A coin that millions carried in their pockets, spent at gas stations, tossed into candy machines, and lost in sofa cushions. But one of these 1994 Lincoln Memorial pennies, without a mint mark, has stunned collectors by being worth up to $2.5 million. Yes, $2.5 million for a single cent. Imagine the year 1994. Bill Clinton was in the White House, gas was barely over $1, and the internet was just beginning to creep into American homes. Nobody thought much of the little copper-plated zinc pennies being produced that year. They were just pocket change, nothing more. But behind the walls of the Philadelphia Mint, a quiet mystery was being born. You see, most coins bear a small mark, a tiny letter that reveals where they were struck. A D for Denver. An S for San Francisco. But in Philadelphia, many pennies were struck with no mint mark at all. To most, this was routine. To seasoned collectors, though, the no mint mark pennies became a treasure hunt. Because not all no mint mark coins are the same. Some carry hidden mistakes, barely visible flaws that transform them into $1,000,000 rarities, and here's where it gets astonishing. Point one collector, who wishes to remain anonymous, was searching through a humble jar of pennies his grandfather had saved. For weeks, he found nothing unusual. But then, a glimmer caught his eye. The date read 1994. There was no mint mark. The coin felt sharper, crisper, almost out of place compared to the rest. He took it to a dealer, expecting maybe a few dollars of value. Instead, jaws dropped. What he had found was one of the most elusive Lincoln Memorial errors ever documented. The secret lies in the tiniest details. On certain 1994 no mint mark pennies, the strike is off-center. The lettering appears doubled. The Lincoln Memorial lines seem blurred, as if the engraving itself shivered during minting. These were not ordinary mistakes. They were the kind of minting anomalies that collectors dream of, mistakes so rare they turn a coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and when that coin crossed the auction block, something shocking happened. Bidding erupted like wildfire. Prices shot higher and higher until, finally, the hammer fell at over $2 million. A single penny, worth $2.5 million. The coin world was left speechless, but here's the part most people miss: not every 1994 penny without a mint mark is valuable. In fact, most are worth only a cent. The difference comes down to spotting the rare features. Look closely at the date. Some examples show a doubled 9 or 4. Examine Lincoln's bust. sharp doubling appears around his jawline and collar. Even the memorial reverse can hide doubling in its pillars. These micro-details are what separate a penny worth 1 cent from a penny worth more than a mansion. Collectors were stunned to learn how many of these coins may still be hiding in circulation. After all, 1994 wasn't that long ago. Pennies from that year still rattle around in change drawers, old piggy banks, and forgotten coffee cans. Dealers are now rushing to examine any 1994 no-mint mark pennies they can get their hands on, because they know that lightning can strike at any moment. And here's the twist, some of the most valuable specimens weren't discovered right away. They sat for decades, ignored, handled by countless people who had no idea they were touching a fortune. One even showed up in a school cafeteria cash register. Imagine, a lunch lady handing over $2 million in change without even realizing it. These are the miracle moments that keep coin hunters awake at night. But what happened next stunned even veteran numismatists. Word spread of the record-breaking sales, and suddenly the 1994 no-mint mark penny became a legend. Collectors swapped stories in hushed tones. Families dug through old jars. Auctions filled with hopeful consignors. Every single coin was examined under magnifying glasses, every date scrutinized, every detail studied. Only a tiny handful of these rare error coins exist. That scarcity is what makes them worth millions. Scarcity, mystery, and the thrill of the hunt. Now, let me tell you exactly how to identify one. First, check for the absence of a mint mark under the date. If you see a D or an S, move on. You're looking for the plain date, 1994, nothing else. Second, study the numbers carefully. On valuable varieties, doubling may appear on the 9 or the 4. Sometimes it's bold, sometimes so faint you'll need a magnifier to spot it. Third, flip the coin. Inspect the Lincoln Memorial. Are the lines sharp and clear, or do you see ghost-like doubling in the columns? This is where many million-dollar pennies reveal their secrets. And finally, condition matters. A coin in pristine, uncirculated shape can skyrocket in value. Scratches, wear, and damage lower the price, but even a circulated error can bring in life-changing money. Think about that for a moment. The next penny you hand to a cashier could be worth $2.5 million. The change you ignore on your dresser could hold a future auction star. The coin you nearly drop into a tip jar could buy you a house, a car, or even change your family's legacy. This is why coin collectors never stop looking. This is why a humble cent can cause so much excitement. Because every time you hear a coin jingle in your pocket, you have to wonder, is this the one? Is this the penny that transforms an ordinary day into the greatest discovery of your life? So the next time you see a 1994 penny with no mint mark, stop. Hold it up to the light. Examine every line, every number, every detail. Because hidden in that copper coin may be the rarest treasure of all. This coin almost ended up in a parking lot gutter, tossed aside as worthless pocket change. But when it finally came to light, collectors realized it was no ordinary penny. It was a 1981 Lincoln Memorial cent, a coin so rare, so mysterious, that under the right conditions, it has sold for sums that stretch beyond imagination. Some say up to $2.6 million. Imagine this for a moment. You've got a jar of pennies sitting in the back of your kitchen cabinet. Dusty, forgotten, ignored for years. You reach in, shuffle through the copper and zinc clinking together, and suddenly, your fingers land on a coin that feels ordinary. But the truth is, it could hold the key to a life-changing fortune. Because 1981 wasn't just another year for the U.S. Mint. It was the final year of the true copper Lincoln Memorial penny. The very next year, in 1982, the Mint switched the composition, replacing copper with a cheaper zinc core. Collectors today know this year as the Great Divide, the moment one era of American coinage ended, and another began. But hidden within the production of 1981, mistakes were made. One particular variety, struck in Denver with the D Mint mark, carries a story that shocks even veteran coin dealers. Tiny errors at the Denver Mint, faint double strikes, rare die varieties, and an almost mythical small run of pennies that were never meant to circulate, because this penny hides in plain sight. It looks almost identical to every other 1981 penny you've ever seen. But a handful were struck with anomalies so rare, so nearly invisible, that unless you know exactly where to look, you'll never notice, and yet, when collectors do find them, their lives change overnight. That in one unforgettable case, a man in Colorado stumbled across a 1981 penny in a box of old coins. It looked a little off, the strike seemed sharper, the luster brighter. He took it to a dealer, who examined it under magnification. What they found stunned the entire coin world. The coin wasn't just well preserved. It was nearly flawless. A mint state specimen, with a double die obverse, a bold strike, and almost no signs of wear. At auction, this 1 cent, this tiny piece of copper, fetched hundreds of thousands. And whispers began to spread, the rarest survivors could reach into the millions. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled. Suddenly, the 1981 was no longer just another penny. It became a legend, but the most haunting part of the story is this: these coins are still out there. Not locked away in museums. Not all in private collections. Some are hiding in old coffee cans, change jars, and forgotten dresser drawers across America. Right now, one of these million-dollar miracles could be sitting in your house. Think about that for a second. Most people look at a penny and see nothing more than a coin to toss in a fountain. But for the educated collector, for someone who knows the secrets, that same penny can unlock the kind of payday most people only dream about. The answer lies in its errors and its condition. Some 1981 pennies were struck with doubling on Lincoln's profile. Look closely at the date, the word liberty, and even the motto, "In God We Trust." If you see shadows, or doubled edges in the letters, you could be staring at a double die. Others have a mint mark variety, where the D itself looks repunched, tilted, or slightly doubled. These errors happened because mint workers were still manually punching mint marks into the dies in 1981, a process that left room for mistakes. Mistakes that today are worth millions. And then, there's condition. If you find a 1981 penny that is still in mint state, with full original luster, no scratches, and sharp details, collectors will pay astronomical sums. Some sales have pushed far beyond 6 figures, with estimates climbing to 7. And the most pristine examples, preserved against all odds, are whispered to reach into the multi-million-dollar range. But here's the part most people miss: almost everyone overlooks this penny because they think it's too common. Billions of 1981 pennies were struck. They're everywhere. But hidden among the billions are the rare misprints, the doubling, the mint mark anomalies, the flawless survivors. And unless you flip your coin over, tilt it under the light, and study the tiniest details, you'll never know. Collectors call this the thrill of the hunt. Dealers describe it as electricity running through your veins when you realize you're holding history in your hand. And ordinary people, people like you, have turned chance finds into million-dollar miracles. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 2021, one collector brought forward a 1981 penny in almost unimaginable condition. Experts examined it, jaws dropping as they confirmed its authenticity. The coin shimmered with original copper brilliance, every detail crisp, the strike flawless. And when it went to auction, bidding wars erupted. The final hammer price? A staggering sum, one that pushed the coin into legendary status, proving once and for all that this little cent could rival some of the most valuable coins in American history. Now let's bring this back to you. Right now, in your pocket change, your coin jar, even in the bottom of your car cup holder, you could have one of these. All it takes is knowing what to look for. So here's the secret. Pick up every 1981 penny you see. Flip it over. Look for the tiny D mint mark under the date. Study the date itself, the lettering, and Lincoln's profile. Search for doubling. Look for a repunched D, check for sharp strikes and brilliant, untouched surfaces. And remember, condition is everything. A circulated penny might be worth a few dollars. But a flawless example, that's where the million-dollar miracles happen. This isn't just about money. It's about the thrill, the history, the possibility that something ordinary could transform into something extraordinary. It's about holding a piece of American legacy in your hand. and realizing it has the power to change your life. So the next time you hear that familiar clink of pennies dropping onto a counter, don't ignore it. Pay attention. Because one of those coins could be a 1981 D. Lincoln Memorial penny, and this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost slipped through history unnoticed, but today, collectors whisper about it as one of the most shocking million-dollar treasures ever discovered. A simple 1991 D. Lincoln Memorial penny, a coin so ordinary, most people wouldn't look twice. Yet in rare cases, this humble cent has fetched prices that leave jaws on the floor, up to $2.7 million. How can a coin everyone spent without thinking, suddenly transform into a life-changing fortune? The story begins in Denver, 1991. The U.S. Mint was running full steam, producing billions of pennies. Workers fed planchets, blank coin discs, into presses so fast that errors were bound to happen. But one mistake that year created something extraordinary. A tiny, almost invisible difference, a detail so rare that even experienced collectors missed it. For years, these flawed coins passed through hands unnoticed. They bought candy, gum, and soda. Children tossed them into piggy banks. Adults dropped them into tip jars. Nobody suspected that a handful of these pennies were worth more than an entire house, but what happened next stunned the coin world. In the early 2000s, a collector at a small-town auction pulled out a 1991 D penny he had found in a bag of loose change. To most eyes, it looked ordinary. But under the harsh glare of a magnifying glass, something unusual appeared. The strike was sharper, the details crisper, almost like it didn't belong to 1991 at all. Experts soon realized what he was holding. This was no ordinary Denver penny. It had been struck with a proof-quality die, the kind normally reserved for collectors' coins, never meant for circulation. Somehow, one of these proof dies was mistakenly used at the Denver Mint. The result? A small batch of 1991 D pennies that shouldn't even exist, dealers gasped. Collectors scrambled. The coin world lit up with disbelief. Could this really be true? Could a penny this common hide such an impossible secret? But the real shock came when one of these error coins hit the open market. Bidders who had studied every crease of Lincoln's face knew they were staring at history. The hammer fell, and the final price was in the millions. 1 cent had become $2.7 million, think about that. A penny, the very coin most people drop on the sidewalk without bending down to pick it up, had become a golden ticket, and the mystery only deepened. How many of these error coins are out there? Were they all destroyed by the mint? Or could more still be hiding in everyday circulation, waiting for a sharp-eyed dreamer to find one? This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The clue lies in the design. On ordinary 1991 D pennies, the strike is slightly soft. The letters can look dull, and the memorial lines often blur. But on the rare proof strike errors, everything pops with razor-sharp detail. The D mint mark appears unusually bold. Lincoln's hair is so clear you can see individual strands. Even the steps of the memorial on the reverse seem almost three-dimensional. Collectors were shocked to see such perfection in a circulation coin. Some experts even called it a mistake too perfect to believe. But here's the haunting part, most people will never notice. Millions of these pennies were spent in the 1990s. Kids tossed them into arcade machines. Teenagers stuffed them into parking meters. Adults rolled them up in paper tubes for bank deposits. Somewhere in that ocean of copper-plated zinc, one extraordinary penny slipped by, and every time one is found, the story grows more legendary. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. He wasn't wealthy. He wasn't a professional dealer. He was just someone who looked closer, who saw what others missed. His discovery turned his life upside down. Could the next 1991 D proof strike penny be sitting in your drawer right now, hiding among ordinary cents? This is where things get thrilling. Auction houses keep records of what sells. And every time one of these pennies surfaces, the price jumps higher. What sold for hundreds of thousands years ago now sells for millions. Collectors are rushing to get their hands on this coin before the last one disappears into a private collection. never to be seen again, and here's the detail you need to know: don't just glance at your pennies. Look at them under light. Rotate them. Focus on the sharpness of Lincoln's jawline, the crispness of the lettering, the bold strike of the mint mark. If your 1991 D penny looks sharper, clearer, and more refined than the others, you may be holding lightning in your hand, but be careful. Millions of 1991 D pennies are worth only face value. It's the razor-sharp proof-strike error that commands the fortune. Many beginners confuse worn coins with special ones. Don't make that mistake. Learn to spot the perfection that sets this treasure apart. These aren't just coins. They're time capsules of human error, frozen in metal. They remind us that even in a world of machines, perfection and imperfection collide to create miracles. Collectors know it. Dealers know it. And now, you know it. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you crack open that old jar of pennies, when you sift through rolls from the bank, pay attention. That one overlooked cent might be the very coin that changes everything, and if you're lucky enough to find it, you won't just be holding a penny. You'll be holding a piece of American history worth $2.7 million. This coin almost slipped through history, unnoticed, unvalued, and forgotten, yet today, it carries a price tag so shocking, so unbelievable, that it has left collectors speechless. That we're talking about a single penny, struck in 1994, at the Denver Mint, a coin most people would never look at twice, but in the right condition, with the right secret flaw. This tiny copper-colored disc has sold for as much as $2.8 million. Imagine that for a moment. A coin you've probably spent hundreds of times in your life, a coin that most people toss into jars, leave in glove compartments, or let gather dust in drawers, turning into a life-changing fortune overnight. How could a penny, the humblest of coins, become one of the most sought-after treasures in American numismatic history? The story begins in 1994. The Denver Mint was striking billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies. Most, they were ordinary, everyday change, nothing rare, nothing remarkable, but hidden among those billions, a handful of mistakes were born. Minting errors so subtle, so microscopic, that even seasoned collectors walked right past them for years. And yet, when those mistakes were finally discovered, the coin world was shaken to its core. You see, the Denver Mint prided itself on precision, but no mint is perfect. During the striking process, tiny flaws, doubled dies, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, sometimes escape unnoticed. And the 1994 D penny carries some of the rarest, most elusive of these errors: coins with doubled letters on Liberty. Coins where the date itself shows a ghostly second impression, coins struck off-center, leaving a crescent of blank space around Lincoln's portrait. But the most shocking of all were the high-grade survivors, pennies struck so perfectly, so sharply, so immaculately, that decades later, they still shimmer with luster as if they rolled off the press yesterday. And when these rare survivors appear at auction, bidding wars erupt. In 2019, one such penny stunned the crowd. It looked ordinary enough, until the grader's report came in: perfect strike, flawless surfaces. An error hidden deep within the date itself. The hammer fell at an amount no one could believe, a staggering $2.8 million. But here's the twist: most people never check their 1994 pennies. They assume too modern, too common, too ordinary. And yet right now, countless examples sit forgotten, in coffee cans, in attic boxes, in jars tucked away in basements. Collectors whisper that these coins are still out there, waiting for the right eyes to find them. One man once discovered his $1 million penny in a simple coin roll from his local bank. He had spent $25 to buy a box of pennies, and one coin, one overlooked 1994 D Lincoln penny, turned him into a legend overnight. Stories like this spread like wildfire, fueling the dreams of treasure hunters across America. But what makes the 1994 D so tricky is that its secrets hide in plain sight. A collector must know exactly where to look, and what details to magnify. First, examine the mint mark. That tiny D below the date is your starting point. On rare examples, it shows doubling, faint shadows, or even unusual placement. Next, study the word Liberty. On certain coins, the letters appear doubled, almost vibrating under magnification. And then, the date itself. On rare double die versions, the 1994 seems almost layered, as if struck twice. but here's the part that leaves experts breathless. Even without visible errors, a flawless 1994 D penny graded in top condition can fetch a staggering sum. Coins in MS 68 or higher, with blazing red luster, are almost impossible to find, and when they appear, collectors fight tooth and nail to claim them. Think about that. A penny you could mistake for pocket change, turning into a multimillion-dollar prize because it survived 3 decades without a scratch. Dealers are racing to find these coins, collectors are scouring their stashes, and every day, people are learning that the fortune they dreamed of might already be sitting inside their homes. But what happened next stunned the coin world even further. In recent years, rumors have swirled of even rarer 1994 D varieties, coins struck with partial collars, coins with striking pressure so high, the details pop in unusual ways, and every time one surfaces, its price pushes higher. Some believe the next record breaker could surpass even the $2.8 million mark. This is why you must check your change, you must look closer, because history has proven again and again that life-changing treasures don't always glitter like gold. Sometimes they hide in copper. Collectors were shocked when the 1955 double-die penny first surfaced. They were stunned when the 1972 double-die penny soared in value, and today, they're holding their breath, because the 1994 D is following the same path. Every new discovery fuels the fire, every auction sets a new bar, and every pocketful of pennies might hold the next miracle. Start simple, pull out every 1994 penny you can find, look for the D mint mark, examine the date, the lettering, the strike. That if you see doubling, off-center features, or unusual shine, you might be holding a coin worth hundreds of thousands, even millions. And here's the key: even if your coin doesn't have an error, don't dismiss it. That if it glows with original red luster, if it shows no scratches, if it looks pristine, send it to a grader, because sometimes the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1 million is nothing more than its condition. Remember this. The 1994 D Lincoln Memorial Penny is not just pocket change. It is a mystery, a legend, and a dream come true for those lucky enough to find it.